Thanks, guys. So what I love about Pat and his team is that they're a family, that they're young guys, and they're doing this for the glory of God. You can go ahead and take a seat, yeah. So let's give them a hand just one more time for leading us. Thank you. Appreciate it. I don't know what kind of a tradition you grew up in, what kind of church background you might have had, but I wonder if many of us have grown up with the shallow understanding of what this is, of what is actually happening when we gather together as sons and daughters of the Most High God, focused on Him, bringing Him praise. We live in a fairly religious culture. Sundays come each week. We sit in the pew, we do our thing, we check it off the box, and we go about our week filled with work and things to do. And do we really understand the massive implications of what happens when people gather together under the banner of Jesus? I want to read a psalm to you, Psalm 42. And if you know anything about Psalm 42, it's not a very happy song. The psalmist is experiencing tremendous spiritual depression, physical battles that are happening, emotional instability. In a very common verse, in verse 1, it says, "As the deer pants for flowing streams, so my soul pants for you." If you grew up in a church like mine, we had a song after that. As the deer panteth for the water. It's this nice little flowing song, but have you ever seen a deer pant for water? When a deer is escaping the thing that's chasing it, the prey, it is on the verge of death. It is on the verge of sheer exhaustion. And so when it says, as the deer pants for water, it's not this, as the deer panteth. He is fighting for his life because he knows that when that deer gets that water, it is life. Psalmist goes on and says, "My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When shall I come and appear before God?" God, when are you going to come? When can I experience life in you? I need you, as the deer pants for water. Verse 3, it says, "My tears have been my food day and night." Have you ever been to the place where you are on the verge of tears at any moment? You stub your toe, you go down and you're out, you're crying. The slightest little thing sets you off. And it's a season that sometimes we find ourselves in. If you haven't, you're probably lying to yourself. We've all been there. My tears have become my food. When they say to me all the day long, "Where is your God?" So you have people around you saying, okay, you worship this great God. Where is he? How's that working out for you? Then verse 4 I find fascinating. So in the midst of this spiritual oppression, in the midst of this emotional uncertainty of physical calamities coming all around, he says in verse 4, "These things I remember as I pour out my soul, how I would go with the throng and lead them in procession to the house of God with glad shouts and songs of praise, a multitude keeping festival." So here you have the psalmist. He is in complete misery, and he says, "This one thing I will remember when I get to worship with God's people." And we begin to understand the massive implications of what's happening here. It is why with this church, Mission Community Church, we are going to place a high value on worship, on the gathering, because my hope and my excitement as this church begins to blossom and grow is that one day, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, Lord willing, 40 years from now, we can look back on this night and hundreds and thousands of nights after that and worship services after that and think to ourselves, God was in that place. God is here. There's that verse that says, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I in their midst. There's a very interesting context in what that verse is in. We think that it's this, that it's the worship gathering, but it's actually when a brother is calling out another sin in another brother. And in a way, Jesus is saying, okay, as we do this, as we sharpen each other, don't be afraid, I'm going to be with you, because where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I in their midst. And the overriding principle is still true in a context like this. That when we are gathered under the banner of Jesus, he is here. He wants to do something. So one of the reasons why I've been so excited leading up to this night is for a couple of reasons. One, it's the first time that we've gathered as a larger group. Many have been asking, when are you going to start? When are we going to start? So there's this excitement that's happening. And so we look back 20 years from now and think, remember that worship night we had in this black box theater in the middle of nowhere? And God showed up. Pat mentioned this earlier. I don't know what you're bringing into this place tonight. You might be in the best season of your life. You might feel closer to God than you ever have. It might be the opposite. Who knows? But can we get to a place that no matter what the circumstances are, we can think to ourselves, I'm going to think back to when we were worshiping together as a people. My prayer for us in these next few moments comes out of Isaiah 64. Isaiah 64, verse 1, it says, "Oh, that you would rend the heavens and come down, that the mountains might quake at your presence." Isaiah is prophesying some pretty negative things here on the people of Israel. And yet he prays, oh God, would you rend the heavens? Would you literally rip open the heavens and come down, that we might experience your presence? So I do believe that when God's people gather and they worship him, there's something that happens that would otherwise not happen if we weren't together. So Father, my prayer for us today is that you would awaken us to your presence. Like Isaiah, would you literally tear open the heavens and come down and meet us in this place, as you already have. Continue to do a work